Good evening to you all. My name is Lee Lamb, and I'm an author, illustrator, and publisher of children's picture books about farming in New Zealand. Firstly, I'd like to thank the Wendonside rural women who encouraged me to enter, and I'd also like to say congratulations to everybody else who's been up here, and congratulations on your wins. I feel very privileged to be here today, so thank you Rural Women New Zealand and Flybys, Telecom, Agrasea and Access Home Health for sponsoring the awards and recognising the potential there is for women to make a positive difference in the rural sector. I was raised in a high country station in the Mackenzie Basin where my love of the country life, animals and farming began. These days I live on a farm in Southland with my supportive husband Jamie, who's here tonight, and he also helps write some of the books. And our two sons, Jack, who is 5, and Thomas, who is 3. My original ambition was to complete my veterinary-related study and work with animals. So when I decided to change direction and write a book, it came as a complete surprise to most people, including myself, but I really enjoyed this exciting new challenge. I certainly didn't set out to become an author, illustrator, or publisher, as I have no formal training in any of these areas, which has made my journey challenging at times. To add to the challenges, I decided to also continue with my study as well as writing the books and raising my children, but luckily I've managed to find a good balance. I have now written 4 books in the On the Farm series: On the Farm Shearing, Autumn Muster, Harvest and Milking Time. It all began when my eldest son Jack was a toddler and I was looking for realistic New Zealand farming books to read to him, but I was struggling to find any. We were living in a Marama and happened to be shearing at the time, so I sat down one day and put together a draft based on that, but I didn't take it any further for a few years. In fact, it wasn't until we moved to Southland and our second son Thomas was born that I decided to take another look at the draft. I then altered it to involve the boys, deciding to name the 2 dogs in the books after them. Their personalities really suited their roles, with Jack being the huntaway, who was outgoing, smart and always on the go, and Tom as the heading dog, who is sneaky, clever but very loyal. I had a lot of fun creating the illustrations and bringing the story to life. After a few months of hard work, the shearing book was complete. I was thrilled with the way that everything had come together, and I was excited to approach publishers. I truly believed in my book, and due to the obvious gap in the market, I was sure it would be snapped up. But despite my optimism, unfortunately, our concept was turned down. I was initially devastated, but although this setback was very disheartening, I still felt that I had a good product, and I wasn't prepared to let all my hard work go to waste. So I decided to self-publish. To begin with, it was very scary, and I ended up loving the freedom and the creative control that you have with self-publishing, and things progressed quickly. In November 2010, the shearing book was ready to print. I cautiously ordered 100 copies to begin with, and even then I was terrified I'd be giving them out as presents for years to come. Much to my surprise, though, the book sold quickly, and I printed another 400 copies. By this stage, I'd organised a distributor, South Pacific Books. They helped get the books into the likes of Whitcoulls, Paper Plus and other bookshops nationwide. This also meant that the print run increased from 400 to 4,000 books, which was a huge step for me. Along with this, my second book, On the Farm, Autumn Muster, was ready to be printed in March 2011 and was also picked up by the distributor. I reluctantly agreed to print 4,000 copies of this book too, even though it was yet to be seen by anyone. Luckily, this gamble paid off and it's also been well received. I had so many ideas for more books and I was filled with confidence after the success of the first 2 that I decided to try again. So shortly after the release of Autumn Muster, On the Farm Harvest came out in December 2011 and was the first writing collaboration between my husband Jamie and myself. This book proved to be the hardest in terms of illustrations. It was a mission trying to keep all the young critics in the country happy with the exact type and colour of every tractor, truck and harvester that we included in the pictures. The latest book, On the Farm Milking Time, was printed in October 2012 and was a step off the familiar road for us. We are sheep and beef farmers, so a lot of research and dairy farm visits were required in order to create it. This ended up being a great learning experience for the whole family, and we thoroughly enjoyed seeing how a different farming operation worked. The extra effort is really paying off with an amazing 1,600 copies of this book already sold to date. In total, I've currently printed 16,500 books and sold over 9,000 copies in about 2.5 years. And sales are still picking up, which is very encouraging. Initially, the inspiration to write these books was a combination of my children, my love of art, animals, and farming. Further motivation came about after I learned that almost 90% of New Zealand's population live in urban areas, and people are rapidly losing touch with our rural roots. These days, some children don't even know where milk originates from before it gets into the bottle. My hope is that these books will spark new interest in farming and help children associate where our primary products originate from, and hopefully have a better connection to our land. Keeping this in mind, I've tried to keep the books as true to life as possible so that they're educational as well as entertaining, and an enjoyable reading experience for both children and parents. The books take you through a typical day performing different tasks on an average New Zealand farm. I make sure the illustrations include familiar scenery and things that children can recognise and relate back to real life. For example, they can read about a milk tanker and learn about what they do, and then see them travelling on the roads across the country. I also like to feature female workers throughout the illustrations. I think it's important to show children that women can play a vital role working in the agricultural industry too. I love the fact that country kids are getting a kick out of my books, and they are reading something that they can relate to, and urban children can learn something about country life. Business-wise, I've learned through this journey that the children's book market is the hardest to crack. This is due to the sheer volume of people who attempt to write and the huge variety of books you already have as a consumer to choose from. The on-the-shelf turnaround is quick, even for books that have been picked up by a publisher. I'm determined to not let my books fall through the cracks. I try to be active in my approach to promotion. I believe that your job as an author isn't finished with the publishing of your book. I enjoy the opportunity to speak to local groups, which helps with promotion and hopefully encourages others to get out and give something a go. I love the fact that I can show people that you can achieve your dreams while living in the country and raising children, and that you don't have to be in a city surrounded by people to succeed. I also make appearances at libraries, schools, and attend fetes and shows throughout the lower South Island. Going to the fetes allows me to meet lots of new people and get direct feedback from customers. My family always joins me at these events, and my eldest son Jack loves informing everybody that he is a character in the story, and now signs autographs as well. He is a typical 5-year-old though, and it usually starts off with a huge J and A, and he runs out of room, there's a little C and a little K, and it takes up the entire inside cover, but people are really good about it. But I love the fact that the kids want to be involved, and that for now they're proud about being in the books. They might not be when they're teenagers. I'm currently helping a few people through the self-publishing process, and I really enjoy doing this because I know how hard it was when I started, so I like to think I'm helping make their journey less difficult. The next goal on the horizon is to get our harvest and milking time books into the UK market, and eventually all the books into the Australian market, which will be a great achievement when I succeed. I believe I've only just scratched the surface of the potential market here, so I still have the rest of the country and overseas markets to explore, and I'm excited to see what will happen once the books receive more exposure. I'm very proud of how our little idea has grown, and I really believe in our product. My dream for the future is to ultimately follow in the footsteps of Lindley Dodd and Craig Smith and make our books a New Zealand classic. I have plenty of ideas for more books in the On the Farm series, and even in other areas, so I'm very excited about where this journey will take me, and I feel extremely positive about the future of my business. Finally, I would like to extend a big thank you to my family and friends for their continued support, and again to Rural Women New Zealand for the opportunity to share in this celebration of our achievements. Thank you very much. Good night.
you.